Well, term one is wrapping up, so I wanted to share how everything has gone and some of the things that I've changed and some of my thoughts going into term two. Welcome to A Heart for Home Education. My name is America, mother to three, homeschooling in a Charlotte Mason and classical way. Term one is wrapping up, and today I wanted to share some of the things that worked for us, some of the things that we switched around in term one, and just a wrap up of term one. As Charlotte Mason homeschoolers, I have three 10 to 11 week terms plus an exam week. So we are on our last week of school, and next week will be our exams, and then we will head right into term two. So one of the biggest changes that I made was to our timetable. Our timetable has kind of shifted toward us doing our family read alouds right after breakfast. I found that I was fighting to kind of rush the kids along during their breakfast, and I decided to just kind of lean into that and put more readings into our family time. So I decided to embrace that and not fight against it and move some of our family subjects into our breakfast morning block. So we do our liturgy for lessons then, and then we also do several family read alouds and some narration then. And also the kids have been doing some of their independent work while I read, like handwriting and copy work. I would say the biggest change for us has been for science. So for our science studies, we were starting the year with Apologia Astronomy. Now, there is nothing wrong with this. I wouldn't say that there's anything wrong with it, and I think we will revisit it in a couple of years. But for now, at this age of my children, it seemed very analytical, and it was drawing them out of that poetic mode of knowledge that they should be in right now at their ages, where they are just taking in good and beautiful things and not have me try to give them a bunch of information that they don't really know how to use yet. So this had a lot of facts in it. It pointed to God and everything. It did cause them to wonder still. It encouraged their wonder, but it just didn't seem like a good fit for the ages of my children. So instead of this, we are still using star stories for little folks. We are still doing astronomy, stargazing, and things like that. But altogether, I've set this aside, and I think we'll revisit it in a couple of years. And instead of this, we have picked up Among the Pond People by Clara Dillingham Pearson. So this is story-based, nature-based, and it is a much better fit for us right now. So this just tells little stories about nature, about a different character in nature each chapter. So today we read about the stickleback fish and some of their habits and characteristics. And Pearson makes this into a story, a delightful story that my children have really loved. And then we will look at some real life pictures from these animals and sometimes draw them. And so this is what we have swapped out astronomy with for the rest of the year. And I think we'll get through this one in quicker than a year. So we might do some of her other stories like Among the Meadow People, Among the Forest People, if we have time. For the next family subject update for our USA Day, I shared in my last video about how term one was going. I shared that I was struggling a little bit with USA Day and how to make it more story-based, and just finding that that was a lot more work than I had anticipated. Now, we are still doing a study of a new state each week, and we have really enjoyed that. One resource that I added is All About Us, or All About US, a look at the lives of 50 real kids from across the United States. And this is by Matt Lamoth. I am not sure if I recommend this one yet. I really like the idea and the premise of it. It's real children that he's included in here. So these are, this child, she's got a name from the state, and then he writes a little snippet about her life. So it's not as much of a story as I would have liked. My kids really like it, and I like that it talks about things that other kids are doing, but I will say that you should probably pre-read this. I wouldn't suggest buying this. I would say check it out from the library and pre-read it. Look through the stories, look at especially some of the stuff in the back, and see if you're comfortable with reading it. But overall, it is a good premise, and it has been a good addition, a very nice, quick story to tell about each state that's less analytical, that's less like the population of Maine is this many people, and Maine's main exports are this and such and such. So this has been a better fit for us. However, I wish there was one that was just like from a Charlotte Mason standpoint. I feel like somebody needs to write that. So this has been a good addition. And then the main thing that I've added to the USA Day that we are loving is adding a historical fiction that is set in the region that we are studying. So this term we have been studying New England. So we are rereading The Courage of Sarah Noble. This is one that we read in Beautiful Feet Books for their early American history. And so I've just added this because this takes place in Connecticut and Massachusetts. So getting a look at the scenery, thinking about the history and things like that, this has been a really good addition to our USA Day. And I have plans going forward to do more historical fiction based on the region that we're studying. And based on the pace that we've been at, I think we will only be able to study a region per term. So next term, I think we will be doing the Midwest. Then for term 3, we will do another region that I'm not even sure of yet. And then my next update is that this book we just could not get to. I'm not sure why. We normally love Hauling See Hauling. Normally it's like the highlight of our school week. We loved Pegu so much, but this one it's just not clicking as much. So I do plan to go in with this even more term 2, term 3, and make sure that it is getting a reliable loop so that we can hear this story. Next up are the individual subjects for each of my children. So my oldest just turned 9 and he is in 3rd grade. And then for ancient history, we have stuck with these 3 books. We finished this one a while ago. We loved this book. We loved this story. It really captivated the imagination and attention of my children. We've been loving Story of the World. We are kind of pushing through because we fell a bit behind, not because we weren't reading, but some of the chapters were a little bit longer, or we would kind of go in depth at some of the chapters. So we just have a couple of chapters that we have to finish up before the end of the term, and that will set us up very nicely to head into term 2, where we start to study ancient Greece. And then we also have one chapter left of The Adventures of Spider. And this has been such a fun read. I really recommend this one for younger years for fun folk tales, but all of us have enjoyed them. They're funny, they're sweet. They just make a really nice addition for this one is West African folk tales. And then I've gone on and on about Lily and Trasher, but that was our missionary read for this term, and we loved that. And now we've moved into reading Mary Slessor, and we will continue to read that until term 2. And now on to the individual skill subjects. So my oldest is 9. He just turned 9 and is in 3rd grade. I talked about in my last update how we switched to Math with Confidence 3. We are still using this, still absolutely loving this. He has adjusted to the workload, and what we have been doing is breaking it up between the independent review and then the lesson that we do together. So typically when I'm working with the younger children at the start of our morning, he will be working on the independent page of this so that he's kind of breaking up the lesson, because all at once it is kind of a lot. So breaking it up has really helped it feel more manageable. I am thinking of a video because I am using Math with Confidence for 3 of my children right now. And a lot of people are intimidated, myself included. Last year, it's why I put Math with Confidence aside. A lot of people are intimidated by the amount of manipulatives and games and things like that. And I think I found a really good rhythm and a really good way to be able to use all 3 levels of Math with Confidence. And I wanted to share some tips, some tricks, some kind of like hacks. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that, making Math with Confidence more manageable, being able to use the manipulatives, ways to make the games easier, ways to make the manipulatives a little bit more simplified, and things like that. So let me know if that's something that you would like to see. And then another switch has been from Danielian handwriting to handwriting without tears. We made a switch as a family because I have loved the Danielian way of handwriting, and I've particularly liked these books. However, our tails were getting crazy. Everybody's tails on their Danielian letters were out of control, and I could not find a way to remedy that. I tried a couple of different things, some intensive handwriting lessons, and it just wasn't working. So we made, as a family, a switch from Danielian handwriting to handwriting without tears. It's gone fine. I've used this in the past before, and it's been fine. It's just a switch that we've made, no big deal. My kids have been a little bit like, what about the tails? What do we do with the tails? But I've explained that right now the tails are a bit too much. Something else for my third grader, I have started using the Black Belt Reading Program from Katie Huller. I found her on YouTube. She makes videos actually just teaching concepts to your child, and it has been really helpful and beneficial. So I went ahead and bought her program. It is really pricey, you guys. So I hesitate to recommend it, but I'm excited to recommend the rest of her videos if you need additional reading resources. Her YouTube videos are incredibly helpful for me to be able to help teach, and my children have really enjoyed them. All of my kids have wanted to watch them. So we have really enjoyed that, and I wanted to share that. The title of her channel and her website are Kids Can Read and Write. And so we have really enjoyed her approach to teaching reading, and that's what we've switched over to for this year. For copywork, I have added the resource. It is called Copywork for Animal Lovers. I will put a picture of it right here. And my son has really enjoyed doing this copywork. It's lovely poems, funny poems, and it has been beneficial for me to not have to try to come up with the copywork out of the readings that we are doing, because that was my initial plan, was to just pull from what we are reading and make that into copywork, which is wonderful, but it's just another thing for me to do. So I just decided to go with this resource. It's from Queen Homeschooling, and we've been really happy with it so far. For my daughter, she just turned 7 and she's like first grade ish. And we have switched over from Abeka to this, from phonics to reading. So, yes, there has been a lot of change. For me, that is just kind of a normal part of starting the school year. Is you can plan all you want, but your kids are different this year, or your middle child's different from your oldest child, your one child's different from your other child. And so what we may have planned may not work out. So to be flexible and to adjust and adapt to what our children need is part of having a mother's thinking love. So this is what we switched to for my daughter. She was using Abeka. The way that they teach vowels, the 2 vowel rule, and especially the marking of the vowels, it worked for a little bit and it got her reading really quickly. And then all of a sudden it just kind of stopped working and it became more confusing for her. She was reading a lot better without doing all of the marking. And the marking of the vowels and the special sounds is a huge part of Abeka. For her, it was just confusing her more, and she would do much better without all of the marking of the special sounds. So it seemed pretty obvious to me that a switch needed to be made, because it's hard to do Abeka without doing all of the markings of the special sounds. So we really did like that for a time, and I'm going to keep those resources in case they work for my youngest. But for now, we have switched over to From Phonics to Reading. This book is intended for like public schools, and that was a little scary to me at first, just because I didn't know if it would translate well into a homeschool situation, but it's been incredibly easy to adapt. So there's a teacher's edition and a student edition. In the teacher's guide, it's a very thorough teacher's guide for a teacher to a classroom setting. So there's a lot that I have to leave out, but once you get the rhythm of how the weeks go, it's very easy. It is a breeze to implement. She's thriving with it. She's doing really well. There's multi-sensory components that she loves. There's word building elements. There's word sorting. There's writing and spelling. I really think that spelling and reading should be together. So I like that this is including reading and writing. And her skills have just grown exponentially. And I think this program has a lot to do with it. So we are really liking this. It has readers right inside of it that you cut out and make your own little books. Now, these aren't the most quality Charlotte Mason type readers, but they are helping her to practice her skills. They are partly decodable and then partly words that she is trying to read. And I really like that they have both of those, because I think that some decodable texts, if we only give our children decodable texts, then when they come to a word that they don't know, they might not even try to read it, because they're like, this doesn't sound like anything. I don't know what it is. So this instructor, I listened to a couple of his podcasts and things like that, and he was stressing that decodable plus some words that they have to kind of work through, some words that have irregular phonics patterns. So we've really liked this. I've seen a lot of growth. We are, I think, 8 weeks into using this, so I think I have a pretty good understanding of the program. I like how quickly this moves. So if you have a child that needs a little bit more review or is a little bit just takes more time to pick up on things, that's totally fine. But I don't know if this one would be for you. Let me know if you want to know more about this. There's not much on YouTube from a homeschooling perspective about this. So let me know if you would like to see a flip through or a review, a dedicated review, or something like that. For her copy work, I have added in Draw Right Now because she absolutely loves drawing. She draws all the time. And so I thought this would be fun for her to have some drawing instructions and then have her copy work on here. Now, I don't usually make her copy the whole thing, just a couple lines, and then she actually normally wants to write on her own, write some things. So that's what we've done for copy work for her. And then I talked about in my last update how I switched her to Math with Confidence from Math Mammoth, and this is still going wonderfully. We love this. It's going great. She's thriving. We love it. And now for my kindergartner, my Kinderleben little guy, he has blown me away with how interested he is in school. I have had to adjust our timetable to include him in our day even more. He wants to do school just as much as his big siblings. So we are well into this preschool book from The Good and the Beautiful. I love this. I really love this. This, I think, might be one of the first things I've used from The Good and the Beautiful. I might have used some handwriting books or something, but this has been perfect. This has been exactly what I was looking for. It's very Charlotte Mason in that most of the letter learning comes from games and playing, and the lessons are very, very short. There are some things that we don't do or we leave out, but an introduction to letters and numbers, he's really retaining a ton of the letter sounds. And I think going forward in a month or two, he will be ready to start all about reading. But this has been wonderful. If you need to teach your child their letters, their alphabet sounds, do this. This was so great. I love how they have built-in review because that's something that I am pretty bad at doing on my own. I think as an adult, it's hard for me to understand how much review is needed for them to retain concepts. So this curriculum and this curriculum as well both have really strong built-in review. One thing I will say is if you go with this, they tell you to teach your child that the letter A says ah. I don't do letter names at this age. We just say this is ah. And to go along with that, I added in preschool literacy, get ready for reading. This is by JDA. She is on YouTube. She's got a lot of resources on Amazon. This is really great because it emphasizes letter sounds and recognition. And these are just really good purposeful worksheets. So we are pushing through the last 2 weeks of school, and then we will start fresh with term 2. We've really enjoyed our term 1 studies. I think we are in a good groove with our individual subjects, and I don't foresee much change coming up on the horizon with those. But I will talk about in my next video some of the adjustments based on how this term went, some of the adjustments that I am making for term 2. So stay tuned for that video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.